Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community, we are running open B-class cars, and our first track was the Road Atlanta Club Circuit, a predominantly fast track, although if you do go for a pure straight line speed car you could have some problems with a few nasty corners. Turn 1 here is a fairly open turn and there are plenty of vehicles getting away with running too wide. This is one of the more difficult corners on the circuit, and Civic with some cold rear tyres gets things a little bit wrong. Coming over the crest of the hill, you will hear a BMW 2002 Turbo making all of the noise, just much turbo noise from the BMW. They got crazy, crazy turbo on that particular car. There was plenty of too wide action as well as we came around this long sweeping right-hander and then onto a sizable-ish straight. Certainly the Infinity here all over the back of the Toyota trying to find a way past. They both go up the inside of the BMW that just couldn't quite get his car slowed down in time as they run up towards the final corner. The Infinity gets a good run off the turn, but you don't really want to be having a look up the ins. You can get too wide through here. Much more sensible thing to do is to get a good run on the exit and then you get up the inside into turn 1. And while the GT86 here has some good straight line speed, I was surprised to see it there or thereabouts with the Infinity. He was stuck on the outside and the Q50 can make the pass stick. I was caught up in traffic trying to make it through the field. Slightly different livery on my car today. It was running another championship, but only ran one race because I got lagged out. So I wanted to see what this car could do in a B-class lobby. I really liked this Stingray when I built it. One of the best cars I think I've built. So yeah, I was keen to see how it could do. You'll see the Infinity got himself in a little bit of trouble, a bit unfortunate, and ended up out wide and got dropped back through the field after all this hard work on lap 1. We were looking at almost going 3 wide in the braking zone into the chicane. I'm around the outside of the Escort, but the Escort gets a really good run off the second part of the corner. I do the cutback on a Mercury Cougar as well, and it's all very, very close. Right in the back of the Toyota as we come around the final corner. It's 2x2 and everybody makes it through there. Just about a few cars squirming around and heading towards the outside of the track there, but we all made it through. I'm up the inside of the Toyota. The Toyota ducks back in line and we all sort of train past the BMW as we race up the hill. The Escort is around the outside of the MX-5 before they get to the corner. I have to do the very brave and slightly silly thing around the outside at the top of the hill. Again, that's another place. Too wide is possible, but not really advisable. Unfortunately, lag would pick that one moment when everybody was all incredibly close together to a strike would break the BMW and the MX-5 and put an RX-7 in the wall as well. I got away with it quite a lot. The weird slow-mo-y lag only ended up with having me on the grass at the front, and it was a Nissan GTR against a Ford Mustang as the Mustang goes a little bit sideways out of the turn. You may wonder how on earth the GTR is running in a B-class lobby. Well, if you engine swap it, if you put in the 5.7 litre V8, it drops the PI by a lot, so it puts the Skyline down into B-class, so that's why the car can run in this. The Nissan was much better through the turns but lacked the power of the Mustang. Closes up massively through turn 1 but just can't do anything about it as they run up the hill. The GTR is just that little bit too far back. Again, he's quick here, but it's not really a good overtaking spot as you run down the hill. It's pretty much flat out all the way down through them fast corners. Again, this turn is pretty difficult to overtake. The Nissan gets an awful lot of help as the Mustang just lets go. The rear of the Mustang just not quite planted enough as it gets a big slide mid-corner and the Nissan gets through. And while the Mustang is, yes, quicker in a straight line, it was out of range down the back straight. There was a rather large battle over 4th place here between me, the Infinity, and the Escort Cosworth. My Stingray was very good through the turns, but it struggled with straight line speed, and it was much the same case with the Escort. The Infinity was not too bad through the turns, but much quicker than us when it came to a straight line, which means I was having to defend for my life against the very fast saloon car while still trying to find a way past the Escort that was about the same straight line speed and also pretty damn good through the turns. The Escort got a little bit wide on this long turn, and this was the closest I had been to the back of the Ford as we come down into what is the best overtaking spot. The Infinity is all over the back of me as well. The Stingray does have good brakes. I have a go up the inside, just misjudge it a little bit. Give the Escort a tap, it gets a big slide on, he managed to keep it under control. And at the end of the day, we all came out the other side relatively unharmed as we fly in to the final corner. The Infinity just losing a little bit of ground. Also, you will notice a very amusing bug on this Stingray. When I go on the brakes, for some reason there is a light in the bonnet scoop. I don't know why. I find that very very amusing. You can see when I'm on the brakes there. We almost make it 3 wide up the hill. That's definitely, like, 2 wide is tough enough through there. 3 wide I don't think would work. Wisely, the Infinity backs out of that one. The Escort managed to hold it around the outside of me as we're on the curbs running down that course. You can see how hard all of us were trying there. I got myself in a little bit of trouble running too deep into this long turn. I'm out wide. The Infinity is up the inside, but that does put him on the outside for the chicane, and we've seen how good the brakes are on the Stingray. Up ahead, the 3rd place Mazda would end up out wide on the sand and would kind of cause a bit of trouble. The Escort had to take avoiding action. The Infinity had to slow down while I managed to get the lot of them. I was just in the right place. Yeah, quite a bit of luck in that one. They then proceed to almost go 3 wide around the final corner as well. The Mazda, a little bit unfortunate to lose 3 places in a matter of a couple of corners. He tries to keep it on the inside of the Infinity, but can't quite do it. Overshoots the braking. Gives the Infinity a little bit of a bump out wide, but that car has so much speed he can get back ahead of the Escort by the time they come to the top of the hill. Yeah, it was a good fun battle in that little group, and that was a large portion of the race. We were all spent quite close together, but it was that group that was the main action. Everywhere else was fairly spread out. At the front, it was the Skyline that was to go on and take victory with not too large a margin over the Mustang. The Mustang back to me in 3rd would be a rather sizable gap, as we had fought for much of the race. But that 3rd place wasn't exactly secure. In the closing stages of the race, I came under increasing pressure from the Q50. With that straight line speed, I just couldn't shake the car. I could defend from it because of the brakes on the Corvette, and it certainly helped on the final lap. The Infinity just dipped a wheel on the grass. It's all it takes under such heavy braking, and couldn't do anything about it as the back end wanted to come round. The Escort goes past. The Infinity does have good acceleration, so he can get going pretty quickly. The Mazda, well, it's the final lap. The Mazda goes for it around the outside of the final turn, but can't do it. Bounces off the wall as the Infinity crosses the line in 5th place. Our second race, we would go to the Sebring Club Circuit. Now, while the first turn at Road Atlanta tends to be a relatively safe one, the first turn at Sebring can cause problems. And this time there were problems. The Mercedes got a wheel off the grass and he couldn't stop into turn 1. I think there was an incident further up as well. It was such a tight hairpin and 16 cars flying towards them. If something does go wrong, it goes wrong in spectacular style. And there was a lot of, shall we say, jostling for position on this opening lap. It was an awful lot of cars. It was pretty much 2 wide solidly throughout the field. We were all trying to sort ourselves out, with a lot of the fastest cars being started at the back. It's a random grid. It just so happened that a lot of the fast cars were at the back, which meant the opening lap was quite frantic. We then tried to go 3 wide into another corner. The Datsun up the inside. My Corvette's around the outside gets bumped out wide onto the grass. The rough got past as well in all of that. My start wasn't fantastic, as you saw. Got a little bit muscled out, ended up across the grass. Yeah, got myself in a bit of trouble. Had a lot of work to do after the first lap. I got behind a Maserati. I think the Maserati race car had suffered a little bit of damage. As I tried to get to the inside, I thought the brakes on my Corvette would be more than enough to get past the race car, but he managed to keep it around the outside. It doesn't have the grip, doesn't have that traction off the turns that you get with the Corvette. I decided to get brave around the final turn, and sure enough, I could get the Corvette past. Maserati is not slow in a straight line, but it was too far back to try anything into the braking zone for turn 1. Somebody had got brave and turned up with a Ferrari 375. These things are just ridiculously hard to drive. They're not a particularly good choice, shall we say, for a B class, and he got past when he just couldn't get any power down the exit of the corner. The Chrysler 300C could get past. While they are terrible on power delivery because they are very light and relatively powerful, they do have some serious straight line speed, and the Ferrari almost comes back on the Chrysler to come into turn 1. He's got a wheel on the grass, can barely get it slowed down. He still tries to go around the outside of the first corner. There's bravery for you. It's not the manoeuvre I would want to try with a 375. I mean, this is easily flat out in most of the cars you will see racing here, and then you see how much the Ferrari slide. They're not nice cars to drive. They are not nice cars at all. I was on a massive charge. After the terrible start, my Corvette was absolutely flying. It certainly helped with cars around sustaining little bits of damage. I think the NSX was damaged. The S2000 may have taken a bit of damage as well. So yeah, my Stingray was absolutely flying. Get to the inside of the NSX. He tries to keep it around the outside, but again, just nothing quite has the same traction. I've got race tyres on this car, maximum width race tyres on the back of this car, which are 345s on this, which means traction out of the turns in this thing is absolutely fantastic. And of course, being a Stingray, the standard engine has some 400 horsepower, meaning that, yeah, the power out of the turns is pretty good. And I could breeze past the S2000 as well. When we came down the straight, the Honda thought about having a look under brakes, but the Corvette is still pretty good when it comes to the slowing down and getting turned bit. At the front, amazingly, it was an Auto Union that led the way. The S2000 had led for a little while, but had a spin. The Auto Union was leading, but had sustained a bit of damage, and the Datsun in second was catching very quickly. Ignore the GT86 there. Again, somebody lagged out, and the car was frozen in place, so yeah. The Auto Union got things a little bit wrong on the exit, got a wheel sort of stuck on the grass, and then he just can't get the car off the grass. While they were fighting, I was very quickly catching the pair of them, but I didn't have the straight line speed, so as he headed towards the final lap, they were going to have a little bit of a gap back to my Corvette. The Auto Union, the quicker of the two, tries to get to the inside into turn 1. Both of them are pushing it under braking, and neither of them can get their car stopped as the Auto Union and the Datsun go soaring off into the scenery, giving me a rather easy pass to take the lead on this final lap. And yeah, in the end I'd get quite a large gap back to them with yeah, it was certainly helpful having the cars fall off the road in front of you and giving you the place. I can't believe I came from such a terrible opening lap to work my way to the front of the field. The Stingray was really working very well here. The Datsun would get second, while the NSX would claim third. In the end, the Auto Union would fall back into fourth. Our third and final race would go to the Road America West alternate circuit, and things would go a bit wrong on the start line. Unfortunately, a staller right at the front would cause a little bit of chaos. If you're running manual and clutch, it happens sometimes. I've stalled cars before. It's just one of those things that can happen at a start of the race. This Camaro that we're following was monumentally fast in a straight line. Comes from a fair way back to breeze past a BMW and Escort down the straight. The two cars tried to fight back, and admittedly they all did fit relatively well three wide through that turn. In the end, the Escort was just out a little bit too wide, and neither of them could do anything about the Camaro. Further back, and there was I think it's a Subaru BRZ, was trying to make his way through the field as well. Gets to the inside of another very noisy BMW, is then on the tail of an M3. The M3 goes defensive through the next turn, but doesn't carry enough speed off it. The Subaru can get up alongside and simply outdrag him into the next turn. BMW has a look at the inside, and you can hear the whistling turbos of the 2002. I could hear that car, even when it was a good sort of 50-100 metres ahead of me. I could hear it over the sound of my own engine. That's how noisy the turbos are. It's ridiculous. The battle for second place saw a VW Beetle trying to fend off an M3. The Beetle faster in a straight line, BMW quicker through the turns. BMW will get a little bit lucky. There is a very nasty bump through this first corner that can cause cars problems, and the Beetle, well, it just sort of chucked the Beetle sideways, and then you end up on the grass, and then you can't get the car off the grass, and the BMW and Camaro are through, and the Camaro made very short work of getting past the BMW. That straight line speed, the size of the gap the Camaro can make up in that small space of time. I mean, the BMW will close back up a little bit through the turns, is much better through the corners, but yeah, the straight line speed of the Camaro was really rather helping, and it wouldn't take long before he would catch up to the back of the leader running a Mercury Cougar. See how far back the Camaro has come from as they exited that first corner, and he's going to catch and get to the inside of the Cougar as they come under braking. The Mercury tries to go around the outside, but can't quite do anything, just runs out of road out there, and that promotes the Camaro up into the lead. Yeah, that straight line speed is quite impressive, and now they are coming to the tight and twistier corners. The Mercury will be a little bit quicker through here, but he's just too far back. I'd been involved a little bit in some of the bumpings on lap 1 and taken a fair bit of damage as the BMW whistles and goes on two wheels. In the shot, I get to the inside of a BMW. My car had taken a fair whack on the back. It had a ruined suspension. I think it was rear right. Can't remember which side it was now that got ruined. Broken suspension, broken brakes, ruined aero, and so on. Yet it drove remarkably well. Normally, if you destroy the suspension or destroy the brakes, you have real problems either getting the car slowed down or getting it turned because the suspension bounces. You might just about see it through here. The car's bouncing a lot more than it should with that broken suspension. Amazingly, this car was still very nice to drive. It didn't feel like it was broken, and even into this first corner where there is a horrible bump with damaged suspension, this should be terrible with a car. The Stingray was fine, and I have no idea how I've built a car that can survive that. It shouldn't. It has no right to be able to survive that, but it could. There wasn't a huge amount of overtaking, I'll be honest, in this one. After the incidents on lap 1 had spread out the field quite a lot, there wasn't a huge amount of overtaking. This Mustang got to the inside of a Corvette, gave it a little bit of a nudge through the turn. Corvette was okay, got a little bit of a slide on, but yeah, there really wasn't a huge amount of overtaking. There were, again, much like at Sebring, there were a few damaged vehicles from the start line shenanigans. It's just something that can happen when it comes to these races. At the front, it was going to be the Camaro that would take victory after passing the Cougar. It would run off into the distance a little bit. It wasn't the biggest margin to victory. You can still see the the bright pink Mercury in the background. A little bit of a lag spike would see the Beetle drop to 4th and would kill the M3 that was there. That would promote me, amazingly, in the half-wrecked Stingray. I would get 3rd, an all-American sort of muscle car podium. And my Stingray, despite all its damage, would get fastest lap, only by a tiny fraction over this Camaro and the Beetle. But yeah, I don't know what it is about that Stingray. For some reason, it is a stupidly good car. As I said, it is probably the best vehicle I've built, and I have no idea how it could survive damage so well. But there we go. That is it for this week's video. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I had 3 podiums and a win. It was yeah, a good day for the Stingray, and there's quite a lot of good action going on as well. The next FailRace versus the community shall be held on Thursday, the 16th of April. We shall be on Forza 5. We're going to be running A-Class Superlights, so your car must be £2,000 or under to count for this. It doesn't have to start at under £2,000, provided you can get it down to under £2,000 with whatever upgrades you want, then you are more than welcome to run the vehicle. If you want to sign up and take part, then you can go to our forums. There will be a link in the description. Find the FailRace vs. the Community section, and the thread will be in there. But that's it from me, so thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.